Hi there, everybody. We're back again for another episode today of What in the World. We started a series last week where JD Austin, my guest tonight, and myself recount some horrifying and sometimes exciting adventures that we had when we worked in the event security business together, event security industry, excuse me. Last week, we talked a little bit about concerts and festivals. We're going to shift gears this week. We're going to talk about probably the one single event that probably bonded us together as the brothers from the other mothers type of deal. Where we also, and we'll talk about this in a minute, we also picked up the affectionate nickname from some of our patrons that we worked with called the Bushwhackers, in honor of the famous WWE or WWF tag team, the Bushwhackers. So first of all, let's get started. JD, glad to have you tonight.
Glad to be back, Wally. Thanks for having me back, man.
Hey, boss man, anytime we can tell these horror stories, we're going to share them with the world. All right, here's what we're talking about tonight, guys. I don't know if anybody watching has ever been to a event that is called 70,000 tons of metal until JD and I boarded our first Carnival cruise ship to work that event. I don't think he or I, either one, had ever heard of it. I don't really know. I know I hadn't. But we very quickly realized we were not in Kansas anymore. Is that a fair assessment, JD?
That is a very, very, very fair assessment.
We got a real education on some stuff and on this event. So anyway, we worked this event for, I believe I worked either 5 or 6 in a row. I know JD, I think, worked a couple more than I did. I had already left the company by the time, it kind of wound down for the company we were working for. People ask me all the time, what was some of the crazy stuff you ever ran into? And although I got plenty of stories about crazy stuff that happened, and I know JD's got a whole book full, he could write a novel with some of the stuff he's seen. I truly believe that probably JD and I both start off with a story from this very event. It's not hard, is it, JD?
No, not at all.
We're going to introduce y'all to a few characters tonight that you might have never known about if it wouldn't have been for us. Let's start off with a bang, JD. Are you ready?
Sure.
Let's tell the listening audience about a fella that we never knew his real name, but we saw him on every year. Every year we saw this guy. We affectionately referred to him as Chainmail Charlie.
Chainmail Charlie.
Because he wore blue jeans and a shirt made out of chainmail armor every day. It seemed like every day we saw him, he had this outfit on. So I'll tell you what, JD, share a quick story or a thought or a horror story, whatever, about chainmail that you remember.
So the one thing that sticks out for me is when Wally says he wore it I think that's all the man had on was a pair of jeans and a chainmail shirt, because he would even get in the hot tub in the pool with his blue jeans and chainmail on. So, I mean, he never took them off. And by day 3, you're just like, does he shower? And I heard somebody say, well, he gets in the hot tub. So maybe he was half clean. So
I guess. I will say this about chainmail. In chainmail's defense, chainmail was probably one of the most recognizable and charismatic individuals that we ever came in contact with across our entire career in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
JD was pretty kind. It's real simple. This event, I forgot to tell you guys how this event was laid out. We essentially crammed as many metalheads on a ship as we possibly could. It felt like there was 30,000 people on there. I don't know how many they actually put on there. I think it was closer to like 5,000. But you can imagine on a Carnival cruise ship for 5 days and 4 nights of nothing but death metal, slash metal, thrash metal, essentially anything but 1980s. Was it glam rock? I guess it was that pretty much covers everything else was fair game. Mm-hmm. But this guy, Chainmail Charlie, and I did find this out before the last time I worked the event. I actually found out from another patron that was on the boat with us. He actually knew the guy. but he didn't know what his real name was. He just knew him by a nickname. And he did tell me that this guy was from, like, I want to say like Belfast or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
It could have been Belgium. I think it was Belgium. And this guy was like a civil engineer in Belgium. Now, JD, seeing the guy, would you have ever expected him to be a civil engineer?
Listen, he didn't look like a civil engineer. He looked like I don't know how. If you've ever been to California, he would fit in really good with that.
I don't know. I'm not even going to do that to California. I'm not going to do it to him. I will say this, though. I can't remember because, we worked a few kind of offshoot events from 70,000 tons. Like we worked a horrendous event called Bars to Hell. You remember that well.
Yeah, too well.
I can't remember which trip it was on, but I snapped the coolest picture of him standing by the pool in his ratty, 3-day-old blue jeans and his chainmail shirt and a Santa hat. I wish I could find that picture to share it. I guess I deleted it off my phone, but that was just a last because I'm telling you, the dude just was a rememberable character in my existence. I mean, it was crazy. I will say this: I'm going to share one of the craziest stories about Chainmail Charlie, and I can't ever forget this. I can't erase it from my mind if I wanted to. I cannot remember which port of call we were at. I want to say it was the year we went to somewhere in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I got off the boat. There was a few of us. There was 8 or 10 of us that were working the event. Mm-hmm. We're all on the same ship. We all got off the boat at the same time to go on the border call. And we saw this big ruckus going on the beach. And we couldn't figure out what was going on. We thought it was actually a fight or something going on. But it was not a fight, was it, JD?
Nope.
It was not a fight. No. It was quite an exhibition. And I use that term pretty freely. We found out that Chainmail did bathe. He was absolutely butt naked when he came out of the lagoon to put his very dingy blue jeans and his chainmail shirt back on from taking a bath in the lagoon.
Yep.
Yeah, folks, I'm telling you, I wish I was making this stuff up. I truly do. But
listen, things you can't unsee in your life, and that's one of them.
I can never unsee that. Now, I will say this. About the guy. The guy was relentless. I honest to God, I don't know if the dude slept 3 hours in an entire week. It seemed like he was everywhere all the time.
With a beer.
That is correct, sir. And he did thoroughly enjoy the music. I will never deny that he was not a fan of the music stylings. All right, so guys, we could have a whole episode on Chainmail Charlie. Matter of fact, I wish we knew what his real name was. I wish we could get him on the show. That would be an awesome interview. But we can't. We don't know who he is. We're gonna go to our graves knowing him as Chainmail Charlie. All
True to that.
So that's Chainmail. That's one character we were introduced to. Okay. Then, do we want to tell the story about the delightful couple from New York we met? And then
I do, sir.
And then a couple of our associates ruined the entire experience.
Yes, I
tell
do.
You what, JD, I tell you what, because you do the voices well too. Why don't you share that story? Okay, one thing I do remember though, the girl was like a lawyer from New York. I'm not sure what the guy was.
I don't remember what he said he'd done, but we met we was on the observation deck. I think it's what they called it. Mm-hmm. We were upstairs, and I mean, we've been talking. I mean, me and Wally's broken down stereotypes. We built, breaking down myths of the South and how people really are, and they're changing our little bit of view of how things go up north. And well, all that came to an end when Eric and his wife at the time come walking up. Are we
going to call their names, or are we going to protect the guilty by leaving them anonymous?
We better
put their whole government name out there.
We'll just say, Big E.
Big E. We'll call him Big E. That is correct. It's probably not Eric Durrett, but we'll call him Big E for now.
Yeah. And his wife at the time, who I will not name at all.
No, because she doesn't even have I can't even remember her nickname at this point.
Baby.
Oh yeah, baby. That's right.
And here they come. And I said, well, and then there's these two that, and well, everything that we worked hard to build up and change minds about got ruined in about 3.5 seconds when she opened her mouth.
Yeah. It was a pretty horrifying experience because we had only worked for about a good hour breaking down all this negativity about the South. We had these folks, truly educated on what the real true South is. Mm-hmm. And then, like JD said, in 3.5 seconds, it all came crumbling down.
I looked at Wally and he looked at me, and we both didn't even have to say nothing. We just shook our heads like this, and
could not believe that. I could not believe all that hard work, and then, I don't want to, because I don't want to get sued by this TV show, but the Honey Boo Boo made an appearance, and it was all downhill from there.
Yep,
so
it went bad so fast. Yep. It went bad so fast.
All right, so we had to mention that. We had to. We just absolutely had to. Now, let me ask you a question. While we're on the subject of a certain individual, we refer to as Big E at this point, do we want to tell about the controversy about the damage to the exotic sports car? Or are we going to let that ride? We're going to let it slide?
I want to tell it so bad.
We might have to come back later. We might have to come back later.
We're going to have to come back to that one. I mean, I wasn't there, but I heard enough about it that I was there. So
well, and here's the problem. We worked this event. We left out of the port of Miami every year. So we could do a whole episode on just our experiences in Miami while we waited, because we always got down there a little early and we had to wait 24 hours or so to get on the boat. And, things happen, hey, what stays in Miami? I mean, what happens in Miami stays in Miami, I guess.
Stays in Miami.
All right, so
once again, things you can never unsee in your life happen in Miami.
Correct. All right, I need you to try in your best Mumford, Alabama way to explain to the listening audience exactly what type of working conditions that we actually had to perform under.
So, here's a good example of, now, when I say the people were wonderful people on this boat, they were some of the nicest people. But when we got off this boat and you get to see us and then what we call normal people, you talking about stairs. Because when I say some of these folks were pale white with black, dark black in the middle of summer, and I mean, people are looking at them like, howdy. Then there's us who stick out like a sore thumb.
Well, somebody asked me one time about the event, and the only way I could explain it to them was, I said, do you know what cosplay is? And the guy was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about, where people like dress up in characters. I said, well, picture every lawyer and doctor and engineer and nurse and every other profession you can think of doing their usual 9 to 5 or their 12-hour shifts during the week, and then walking into a club on Saturday night and seeing this reincarnation of this human being, this new incarnation. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, dude, I'm talking chain mail. I'm talking leather. I'm talking spikes. I'm talking the wire. I mean, Marilyn Manson would look modest compared to some of these folks.
You got that? Yes, because do we tell them about the guy with the implants?
Oh, I forgot all about that dude. Yeah, we got to tell that. You talking about the devil dude.
Yeah, well, look, so I'll never forget this. This is one of those I'll never, as long as me and Wally's in the elevator, we were going to get something to eat.
Yeah, had just woke up from working at 3 o'clock in the morning before.
Just woke up. It's like 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
We're going to get a late break. The guy gets on, and in his fort right here, implanted, not on top, implanted in his skin, is a set of devil horns, and they just kind of go down his back. And I look at Wally. I said, if this guy makes one weird sound or move, I said, Wally, I'm going to take him out, man. There's something wrong. And he had his tongue split. He had a forked tongue. I'll never forget that. And
dude, all I remember about that whole experience is I didn't want to make eye contact with him. and I kind of had my head kind of, averted away from him, and I'm just humming just as I am under my breath the whole time we're in the elevator. I'm like, Lord, I need your help right now.
That was that guy, man.
Yeah.
I will never.
That was
He
that.
had
I
some work done.
forgot all about that, dude. I tried to push that evil memory out of my mind. I appreciate you bringing it back, though.
You're welcome.
All right, so okay, let's get past the imagery. Okay, I understand that folks delve into certain experiences in different ways. We even on our days off, I mean, we look like insurance salesmen compared to these folks.
True, very true.
Let's talk about, like, for example, you and I usually worked on the same exact location on every year. We had
our stage.
Well, we worked what would be considered the theater of the boat, which is an actual stage set up with seating and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they had the mosh pits and all that established. But first of all, I don't know if I can even express this properly. But when the bands started playing, the noise level was at such a high level that the only way that, well, first of all, the guys that were in the pit couldn't hear anything. Like, we could have thrown stuff at them as the only way we got their attention.
Mm-hmm.
But I was usually set up on one corner of the stage, and I covered media access to the pit and all that kind of stuff. JD was on the opposite end of the pit, and he was making sure none of the riffraff kind of filtered in on that side. And the only way that he and I could communicate with each other was we had a setup very similar to what you see on an aircraft carrier with the headphone, the whole big bulky earpieces and the drop down microphone. And I can remember times when the music was so loud that we would be screaming over the microphone, and people that were on the same network with us at a different part of the ship was responding to us, thinking that we were trying to talk to them when we were actually trying to have a conversation about something going on. And we couldn't hear ourselves talking back and forth to each other with the help of the microphones.
It was because there's nowhere, the sound is right there. It's trapped.
Yeah, it's just nowhere to go.
It was you could feel it even when we go to sleep. You could still you could still feel it in your heartbeat. It was so loud and so just
insane.
So
yeah,
I mean,
that's what I tell people all the time. I'm glad I had all that stuff on. I can't. As I get older, I'm having trouble picking up a lot of stuff now from a hearing standpoint, and I can't imagine being somebody that goes out on tour and does that every day. I just can't imagine it.
No, like I said, even with the headphones in, it couldn't. Earplugs.
Now, I'm going to share one quick story, and then we're going to jump back to where we used to hang out, where the Bushwhackers were born. Okay,
that's right.
Because we're about to share a story. Well, first of all, we'll give a little brief explanation about how we actually picked up the Bushwhacker nickname, and then we got to jump into the story about who we're going to talk about him for sure. All right. Okay. So one quick story. The only night, usually the way we worked on these ships, like I said, it was 4 nights worth of 4 nights. It's 4 nights worth of performing, and we usually got 1 night off. Sometimes me and JD would get the same night off, and then sometimes it worked out where he'd have to run the thing and I'd be off, and vice versa. So, just happened to be, I think, second or third year I was working, might have been the 4th year. I happened to be off. I was up checking out the pool deck, which they had a big, huge stage set up on the pool deck area.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there relaxing, watching the show, trying to act like I'm actually enjoying it, that kind of stuff. And our big boss at that time was up on the pool deck, and he said, he grabbed a couple of us that were off. He said, hey, they changed the plan here with this guy. We need you to follow this guy to make sure they don't do anything to him. And I'm like, okay, well, who? And he pointed to the lead guitarist. Can't remember the guy's name. I know it was an Asian dude. I know he was one of the best actual guitar players I've ever heard live. He was amazing. and he comes down off the stage and he's playing, and he leans over to me and he says, "Hey man," he said, "follow me up this run." I said, "Okay." So he's going up the run, he's playing, he's interacting with the crowd. I'm kind of walking along beside him, and he gets all the way to the end of where this catwalk is, and he said, "Hey dude, I'm finna get in the hot tub with him." I said, "I'm sorry, you fixing a what?" He said, "I'm finna jump in the hot tub." I said, "No, you're not." He goes, "Oh, I'm finna do it." And just luckily, I know he wasn't thinking about it, but I thought about it. When they're playing, they have this for the amplification. They got this battery pack sitting on their back. Okay. So as he goes to jump in the hot tub, I reach and snatch the battery pack, off of his belt loop. Because if he'd have hit that water with all that, with that wiring running through, he'd have fried everybody and there wasn't but about 40 people in that hot tub. So I snatched it off, and when he climbed, he's still playing, and of course, when I pulled it off, his guitar, loses amplification, so he's just playing. And so he gets back out, and he grabs the battery pack from him, and he snaps it back together, and he clips it on his back, and it looks like he's really pissed off at me. And he leans down, and he says, "Hey, dude, you effing are awesome, man. I forgot all about." I'm like, whoa, simmer down, big man. He's like effing this and effing that. I'm like, dude, it's okay. Calm down. He goes, "No, I'm just, man, thank you, bro. I forgot all about that." So then he goes back up and he plays and plays and plays. And that was on a night off. I mean, I wasn't supposed to be doing anything. Just supposed to be up there chilling, Because I'm going to be honest with you on that, the way it was set up, even if you had a night off, you couldn't go anywhere and enjoy it. It was just because you couldn't get away from these people. That's what I tell everybody. At least when we worked a regular concert, we dealt with them and then they went home.
Yeah.
Well, when they went home, they in the same place sleeping that you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to share that quick story because that every time I think about that dude almost electrocuting like 50 people in the hot tub. All right, so sorry, I didn't mean to run off the rail there. All right, we got two stories that we have got to share about our specific venue, but I want to tell the quick story about how the Bushwhackers were born. Okay, all right. JD and JD's going to agree with me here. We learned very quickly that in between, the different sets, the different artists, they had some downtime, and to keep the folks entertained, we enjoyed ourselves. We really did. We acted up. We cut up with the folks that were there, and I think the folks truly appreciated it. But for some reason, I don't know, JD must have been on, I don't know, heroin or something. And I don't know what was going on with him. I look over there and he's doing the whole Bushwhacker arm deal. And I'm like, what is he doing? And then he points at me. And of course, like an idiot, I do it too. I'm doing it too. And then before it's over, I mean, I want to say we did it like the first or second night. Dude, by the third or fourth night, they were calling for it.
They were.
It was crazy, man. I mean, what's so weird, JD, tell them what it's like to be recognized, like to come back year after year and the patrons actually recognize you. They are excited to see you being there.
It's actually really good. They come up, man, and it's like, man, I've missed you. How you been? Golly, I'm so glad you're back. We're just so happy to see you. What's in store this year? And you just pick up like me and you're doing right now. Like we've seen each other. I mean, it was just like seeing old friends. That's what was so crazy.
And you know what's so weird though is, and we're not talking about just folks from the U.S. or Mexico or Canada. I mean, these folks were from everywhere. Croatia. We met some folks from Lithuania. We met two dudes from Australia. We met people from everywhere.
Germany, Russia, I think Poland. There was even some from South Africa.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Eastern Europe was well represented on this event.
Those guys love some hard rock. I mean,
and look, and what's so crazy is not only did they were glad to see us, they remembered who we were. They remembered where we were from. They asked, I had a guy ask one time, he said, "Hey man, tell me what it's like to live in Mississippi." And I said, "Dude, tell me what it's like to live in," like, I think he was from Sweden. I said, "What is it like to live in Sweden?" He goes, "Oh, it's kind of," and he started, and it sounded like me growing up, out in the middle of nowhere. And
yeah,
he lived in a very country location, in Sweden. And I'm like, dude, it sounds like me and you live essentially the same life, just 6,000 miles away.
Yeah.
But it was just weird, dude. It was and the funny thing was and I'm not just saying this to blow toot our own horn, but of all the folks that worked this event with us, and there was quite a few fantastic people we worked with.
Very.
But I'm gonna say the two of us were probably the most recognized people from the patrons. Like we would be walking to get some dinner, or we'd be just out on the one of the upper decks just trying to catch some air, and everybody came up and interacted with us, and a lot of them knew us by name, which was really weird. So
yeah, my favorite moment from that, though, one of the moments, I can't remember, but you had your Got Jesus shirt on. And I can't remember the drummer that walked by and was like, hey, man, that's a cool shirt.
Wait. That wasn't 70,000 tons. That was Bars to Hell.
That was Bars to Hell.
And I remember, dude, I had a shirt, and it was a play off of the Got Milk with the question mark, the promotion they did. But it said Got Jesus, ? And I want to say it was the drummer or the lead guitarist for a group called Lizzie Borden.
Yep. Yeah.
I want to say either the night before this happened or the night after this happened is when they did the simulated abortion on stage. And the guy walked up to me.
Right, people.
I want to say it was the day after, which was really made it kind of creepy. And the guy walked up to me and said, dude, love that shirt. And I'm like, I didn't even know he was talking to me originally.
Yeah.
And I looked at JD, and Keith Smith was sitting beside me. And Keith said, I think that dude was talking to you. I said, what? And I looked at my shirt. I didn't realize what shirt I had on. And I looked at my shirt and I said, oh, okay. And the guy's like, and he's walking away, gave me the old finger. I went, what in the world? But yeah, man, I forgot all about that. That was on Bars to Hell, though.
It was that one.
Listen, folks, we could talk for 25 hours on Bars to Hell. All right.
Things you can't unsee.
Let's try to, please. Let's try to reel it back in, because we got a couple of stories we have absolutely got to share. Matter of fact, I had a actual listener that found out we were doing this with some promotional stuff I did, and they actually asked to share this story. Okay, this is a young lady. I assume it's Johanna, like Johanna. I'm assuming that's female.
Mm-hmm.
Says she was on the ship with us and wanted to know, were we going to share the story about us trying to kill Gumby? And I said, absolutely, we're going to share that story.
Yes, we are.
Now, JD played a lot larger hand in the attempted homicide of Gumby than I did. All right, so I'm going to let JD tell this story, and then after the attempted murder, I'm going to jump in and tell y'all about my life-saving experience where I saved his life. Go ahead, JD. Set the stage for us.
So we're in our stage.
Well, first of all, clarify who Gumby is.
I don't remember his name, but it was.
No, I'm saying explain to him why we're calling him Gumby, because I'm assuming everybody here knows who Gumby is. Gumby is the character, the green character, the claymation character from back in the day. So
he wore a Gumby outfit the whole time. That's all he wore was a Gumby outfit. And he would stage surf and jump around and mosh in his Gumby outfit. And we had a young gentleman with us that Cornbread is his nickname.
We had two gentlemen with us that were very large in stature.
Cornbread, and it was it Keith was right Keith there Smith. With him.
Keith is the one that got fed up with him. That's why this happened.
Yeah. So he kept coming over and finally I was like, look, man, please don't. There's just stay out there with it. Quit coming up here. Just stay out there. Okay,
now before he tells any more, I got to clarify something. The policy was, this is the policy. If a guy gets crowd, surfed up to us at the pit. We grab him and bring him down and escort him out of the pit. No. I'm sorry. We push him back. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We push him back out in the crowd. If a female gets surfed up to us, we pull her. We bring her down and walk her out of the pit.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry. Now that you know why they tried to kill him, continue, sir.
So after I told him like 3 or 4 times, and Keith is tired. Keith got tired of dealing with him, and that's when Cornbread said, "I'll take care of it this time." And he come up, and I seen it. Cornbread got him, and he got it, and he cocked. And when he cocked, man, I said, "Wait, what?" And about that time, I just see Gumby. He probably flew Gumby 10 feet in the air. Gumby probably weighed 100 pounds soaking wet too.
No, he's bigger. He's bigger than that, boss. Cornbread was just a big old boy.
No, I'm talking about Gumby.
No, I'm saying Cornbread. Gumby weighed more than that. Cornbread just shot put is what he did.
And he shot put him because he grabbed him and he launched. And I was like, "There goes Gumby." And they're gonna catch him. Nope, he's not. Oh God, he hit the floor. And when I say he hit the floor, I could hear him physically hit the floor over the music. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, we're talking. We were trying to clarify how loud the music was. All right, so let me tell you, that's what JD saw. Well, here's what I saw. I radioed down to JD. I said, "JD, tell them, get the guy, just get him down." Well, nobody can hear me because the music is so loud. So sure enough, the young man we call Cornbread literally like cocks his arm like he's going to throw a baseball, but he throws a Gumby instead. He grabs this kid and hurls him. And what's so weird about it is the crowd knew what was about to happen. The crowd had already gathered in a little pit, little matted. They were all matted up, and they were just going to grab him. Well, they were standing right in front of the actual pit area where the bicycle racks were. So they were probably 5 deep, big circle, that's a good 10 or 11 feet probably.
Mm-hmm.
Sure they're gonna catch him. Nope. Launches him, and it's like a car wreck. I saw it all in slow motion. I saw the kid take flight. I saw the crowd getting ready to catch him. I saw the crowd looking up as he flew over their heads. I saw the crowd's heads as they followed him past him to the ground. And then, just like JD said, over all that music and all that chaos, I literally heard the boy hit the ground. Like and that floor was just a thin layer of carpet and concrete up under it. I mean, he hit with a thud. All I remembered was, and I told JD this, I think I told JD this over the radio. I said, "That dude's dead. He's got to be." So I called JD down to my end. He comes down the pit to cover the media, and I go scurrying out there to check on the kid. And the first thing that ran through my mind was when I got to him, he wasn't moving. I said, "This kid is dead. I'm finna have to call my boss and tell him we killed somebody." And sure enough, I'm like shaking, like, "Come on, dude. Come on, man. You all right? You all right?" And I'm shaking. And all of a sudden, it's like, I don't know. He just came back to us. Like it was like he was out of his body somewhere, I guess. He just came back and he just jerked up, kind of came back. It scared me more than it did anything. And then he's like backpedaling away from me, trying to get away from me, like scooting on his behind, trying to get away from me. And I'm like, "Dude, are you okay? I mean, let me get you checked out." That's all I heard was, And then he gets like 10 or 12 feet away from him. Well, then he gets up and just kind of scurries out of the venue. And I'm like, I guess he's all right, then. I couldn't get him checked out. The paramedics had showed up. They didn't have him by check. So, so he went on his merry way. But you still ain't told the wildest part of this story. Tell them about the next week. Okay, first of all, we would work to about 2:00 every morning, something like that.
2:33, somewhere like that.
Anyway, so we'd go back to the room, grab a quick shower, and then we'd all just die. We'd physically just die on the bed, and then resurrect ourselves for the next morning. And we usually got up, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock, probably around 10 o'clock. So we leave. Our crews kind of stuck together because of the way we worked and all. So our little crew of 5 or 6 of us, ever how many there was of us, we're headed to get some lunch, grab some food. And JD, tell them how we found out who Gumby was.
We saw the kid without his suit on.
Actually, we saw three of them. We saw three of them. Yeah.
And I want to say the kid in the middle, he saw us and he saw Cornbread, and he literally dropped what he was doing and went the exact opposite way, faster than I've ever seen anybody try to leave a room in my life. We're like, who is that? And I think Keith said, I think that was that kid we threw last night.
Yeah. I looked at everybody when the guy, because he made such an effort to get away from us, and the other two that was with him knew who we were, because they kind of froze. They kind of just stuck against the wall like Spider-Man, trying to get out of our way. And we walked on past him. And when we walked past him, I think Keith Smith said, "Man, what's wrong with that bunch?" And I said, I think we found Gumby.
I think, that's right.
Gumby, you know what's so funny? Gumby avoided us like the plague the rest of the week.
I never saw him not one more time after that.
Didn't see him again. Sure didn't. Did not see him not already. So
No,
I guess we proved the point. If you mess with us enough, we'll just homicide you and move on. So
that's what I mean.
That's how it is sometimes.
It's how it happens.
But we ran into that kind of stuff all the time. I mean, I'm about to tell probably one of the most embarrassing, disgusting stories ever in my existence. And stop it, JD. Quit laughing. It's not that funny. All right,
it was for me.
At the same venue, we're in the same location. I want to say it was the following year. No, it was the year before. It was the year before we threw Gumby. We had a young man named Michael Nelson that was working with us. I believe Michael Nelson is a police officer, I think, now.
He is.
Fantastic young man. Loved working with him. But in that moment, that day, in that moment, I was not a fan of Michael Nelson. Michael Nelson had to use the restroom. So I stepped into the pit to relieve him so he could go. He wasn't gone more than, 10 or 15 minutes, I guess. And inside that 15 minutes, I had one of the most harrowing experiences in my entire – stop laughing, JD. I had one of the most harrowing experiences in my entire life. As we've already explained, that this group enjoyed what is considered crowd surfing. They enjoy it. Us, not so much. But anyway, we had a young man. I'm going to assume he was from the Scotland area, possibly, because he was wearing a very authentic Scottish kilt. And the reason I know that he probably was from Scotland is because if you wear a Scottish kilt authentically, that means that's all you wear. You don't wear anything else up under it, except maybe some socks and shoes. You ask me, well, William, how do you know that he didn't have any underwear on? Well, I'll tell you exactly how I know. He happened to be the individual that was doing the crowd surfing at that point. And we had already pushed him back a couple of times. And I was becoming a bit frustrated with him. So about the third time he came up, I reached and was going to grab him by his lower calf and just kind of dump him back over into the crowd. And hopefully that would dissuade him from doing it again. The problem was, and JD has not alluded to this at this point, but in the area where we work in the theater, it would tend to get pretty hot. I mean, I'm not talking face of the sun hot, but it was pretty warm down there. It wasn't hard to break out a lather of sweat, is what I'm saying. All right, so I grabbed the gentleman. They are continuing, a group of about 6 of them are continuing to try to push him. He's not a small young man. He's probably 200 pounds. And as I grab his lower calf to push him back, the sweat that has accrued on his legs is pretty slimy. And my hand slides up his leg as I'm trying to push him back into the crowd. Now, if you know the human anatomy, especially the male anatomy, you get to a certain point on a fella's leg and you run into problems. You know what I'm saying? Well, I ran into such a problem. I actually made it all the way up into his genital area and ended up getting a handful of something I didn't want no part of. So I just kind of slung him on over, and then I went and I debated between possibly sanitizing my arm, to a level that was acceptable, or possibly just taking a machete and cutting it off from like the elbow, up to my fingertips. I wasn't sure which direction to go at that point. I do know it was an extremely disgusting situation that I found myself in. But, people like JD found humor in it, though. I don't know why. It was I guess in retrospect, I could see where it would be a funny story. It
was hilarious for me.
Not for the participants. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he enjoyed it. I didn't for sure. So, but that's probably one of the worst. It's at least top 3 worst experiences I had while in event security as a whole. So, but I'm gonna say that's probably my worst. I was going to share one more story about JD, but I have decided I think I'm going to lead with this story next week.
Oh,
because
God.
Because next week we're going to be talking about motorsports, but I'm going to give y'all a little extra at the beginning of next week's episode. Just kind of finishing this topic up and jumping into motorsports, because we have some motorsports experiences. Matter of fact, JD had quite an interesting interaction with a gentleman named Joe Namath. We're definitely going to talk about some of that stuff. So, but JD, I'm going to tell you, man, once again, man, it doesn't take long. We get to tell these crazy stories to burn through some minutes. So,
I'm telling you, but if I didn't live it, man, nobody would. If you weren't there and I went, nobody would believe us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If there wasn't witnesses, nobody would believe in this stuff ever happened. And we're not exaggerating when we tell these stories. We wish we could forget them, but we can't. There's no way to get around them. I mean, I will always, when I look back at my time in the event security industry, I look back at an event like 70,000 tons of metal and Bars to Hell, which was another one we worked. And, like I tell people, event security for me, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. They were days that I could not wait to get away from that event that we were working. And they were days that I wish they would have never ended. So that's just how it is. Yeah. I don't know, man. I know it was, I know we've had an insane ride. I know that.
That's the truth, and we ain't even scratched the surface. There's stories we can go another 45 minutes on.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we had to break it up into pieces, into topics. Because if we didn't, we could just do a live show for 6 or 7 hours on this stuff. But anyway,
I didn't even touch on the fact that I thought the first cruise that you missed, and I thought we were going to be on an episode of Cops on Miami-Dade PD, Dylan.
Dude, I forgot about that. You got to share that before we get out of here. Go ahead, quick. You got like 2 minutes, man. Share it.
So it's our first cruise. We're done with everything. We're getting ready to come home. We're beat dog tired, and we have a certain individual from Auburn he was just a knucklehead the whole cruise. And finally, our owner had just had enough and was like, "Man, listen, if you don't chill out, we're going to leave you in Miami." And next thing I know, man, they start having words back and forth, and I'm like, "Oh my God, they finna throw blows."
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, I hear sirens. I was like, "I'm getting on the bus. Here comes the cops," and they're still going back and forth, back and forth. Well, long story short, we left a man in Miami and come home one crew member short because of the way he was acting. And the whole time, though, I'm like, "We're going to jail in Miami. This is great. That we're going to end up on an episode of Cops in Miami." Here,
as the bus pulled away, you heard "Bad boys, bad boys." What's it gonna do?
I was like, "Well, this has been really fun. Now I'm gonna see the inside of Miami-Dade PD." So
there you go, folks. Saying there's not a better way to finish a story than leaving a man behind. All right, guys. I hope you have enjoyed the content that we've shared with you guys both today and last week. Next week, we're going to take another little chapter out of our lives in the event security business, and we're going to talk about motorsports because we got a chance to work quite a few motorsports events. So if you see something you liked here or the episode from last week, or you're super excited about hearing about stuff from the motorsports episode next week, don't forget, guys, like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications. You don't want to miss any of this stuff because JD Austin is pure gold. You don't want to miss it.
Always a pleasure, Wally. I can't wait for
JD,
next week's episode.
you know what this means, man. I'll see you next week, brother.
I'll see you next week, sir. Thanks for having me on again.
All right, folks, y'all have a